Hello, welcome back to another Football Commentaries live stream as the title race is starting to heat up. Manchester City could close the gap to 3 points to Arsenal, who play Brentford away tomorrow night. But the Etihad is the venue for tonight's game as Fulham travel up north to try and beat Manchester City for the first time since April 2009. The Blues left Anfield as heroes on Sunday evening after a rollercoaster affair, with Pep Guardiola's side coming back from behind to take all 3 points with an 84th minute goal from captain Bernardo Silva and a vital spot kick in the 3rd minute of added on time from Erling Haaland, scoring his 21st league goal of the campaign. The Cottagers travel from the capital to try and upset the City momentum as they themselves want to right their wrongs from the weekend after a disappointing loss to Everton at home, being 1-0 up until the 75th minute and then going behind with 7 to play. It is just 3 wins from 12 away from home in the league this season for Fulham, losing their last 2 in a row to Manchester United and Leeds. A win for Marco Silva would take his team up to 8th, depending on goal difference. The reverse fixture saw a 9-goal thriller at the start of December. At one point, Manchester City were 5-1 up, but that changed within 24 minutes and the game ended 5-4 with a nervy ending for the travelling Blues. But with 19 wins in a row for City against Fulham, they will fancy their chances to make it 20 tonight. So in a huge game for the title, can City close the gap to 3 points, or can Fulham help their fellow Londoners and take points back home to the capital? It's probably statistically the fixture that Manchester City would have wanted the most. They are 19 wins in a row against Fulham currently at the moment. That is just a tremendous record, because especially more so in recent years under Marco Silva, Fulham have become a very steady and solid Premier League team. They very nearly caused Manchester City to drop points in the reverse fixture. That 5-4 game was absolutely ridiculous. It is the most goals that there has been in a single fixture in this head-to-head between Manchester City and Fulham. But 19 wins in a row is incredible. That is a run that is started from February 2012 when Manchester City won by 3-0 here at the Etihad. And in the 19 wins they've picked up in a row, there's an aggregate scoreline of 59-13. So for all of those travelling supporters tonight coming from London, the utmost of respect to all of them, because it is around an 8-hour round trip for Fulham fans if they're taking the coach. If it's by train, it's just a little bit of a shorter travel time, but still it's a long way to go. It's a Wednesday night, it's a 7:30 kick-off as well, so it's difficult. I think sometimes people forget when they're sat down on Twitter on their phone, typing and putting all their comments out, slating away supporters. I find it absolutely incredible. I think I saw Bournemouth last night getting some stick for their travelling support at Everton last night. But it's Bournemouth, who firstly we know don't have the biggest of fan bases, but it's a Tuesday night for them. It was I think I read it was their longest away trip, and they're getting stick for not taking many fans. It's absolutely ridiculous. People have got to remember that people have lives and jobs, and I think it'll be the same said for the Fulham fans tonight, all the way from London on a midweek in the middle of February. It's difficult times as it is. So, and when your team haven't won any of the previous 25 against the team you're playing, I 100% understand why some of the Fulham supporters might give this game a miss. The last time that Fulham won against Manchester City was at the Etihad Stadium. It was in April 2009. It was a 3-1 win for them. But there's not many draws in this fixture. There has been 9 in the Premier League between these two. The last time that these two teams drew was at Craven Cottage. It was a 2-2 draw back in September 2011 this season. Manchester City won the Premier League with that very famous Sergio Aguero goal. Manchester City were actually 2-0 up in that game against Fulham, with Aguero getting on the score sheet, but I remember it was a Danny Murphy equaliser late on which gave Fulham the point against Manchester City. But it's just crazy how things can change so quickly within the Premier League. when Dominic Szoboszlai scored that free kick on Sunday afternoon. That put Manchester City 9 points away from Arsenal. But the craziest last 25 minutes in that game gave Manchester City 3 points, and now playing before Arsenal gives them a chance to go 3 points behind them in this title race, which will put pressure on Arsenal. I don't care what anyone says. The way their last 3 seasons have gone in terms of finishing second, Arsenal will start to panic, and they travel to Brentford tomorrow, which will be a live commentary on this channel, so make sure you're here for that. That's an 8 o'clock kickoff. And Brentford's not an easy place to go. They've lost twice at home this season, to Manchester City in October, then most recently to Nottingham Forest a couple of weeks ago, which I commentated on, and Brentford were poor that day, very poor. But against Arsenal, under the lights, midweek, Brentford picking up amazing away wins back-to-back, beating Aston Villa with 10 men 1-0, and then also beating Newcastle at St James's Park on Saturday with a late goal after being pegged back by a Guimaraes penalty. So that's, if Manchester City win tonight, that game becomes very important tomorrow, as like I say, Brentford do host Arsenal, and that will be commentated on live here from 7:45. The stream will begin. I will jump on around 10 to 8 with kickoff at 8 o'clock, as we're getting both sets of starting 11s entering the pitch, being led out by the officials. We've got the referee Paul Tierney for this game. He was the referee for the FA Cup final back in 2023 when Manchester City beat Manchester United 2-1, one of their 3 trophies for the treble that season. He's got his 2 assistants alongside him of Simon Bennett and Richard West, as there's been much conversation on Twitter and online with the Manchester City attendance. Well, that's always been a conversation, but within the last couple of home games there's been a lot of empty seats, more so in that League Cup semi-final second leg against Newcastle, but prices are pricing out supporters from going to their home games at the moment. It does look like there's going to be plenty of empty seats knocking around the stadium, but it's more of an internal fight for Manchester City against the people who are in charge with prices of tickets and who the tickets go to, who can sell the tickets. So it's a very messy situation, but once again Pep Guardiola has called upon the fans to turn up tonight and be as loud as they can. Sometimes I think he forgets, the reason why there is empty seats. Half of it is because of prices. Another half is, of course, sometimes, Manchester City aren't, a huge club in terms of where they are based. Of course, when you've got Manchester United next door, who are one of the biggest clubs in the world, that's always going to cause some competition. But of course, Manchester City and their hierarchy have caused a lot of friction between themselves and the fans with the way they've dealt with tickets and the prices of them and who they give them to and all of the above surrounding that topic. But they've got a game to play tonight and they need to win it, and we'll go through the City starting 11. 2 changes from the starting 11 against Liverpool. It's one in the defence. It's Donnarumma, of course, in goal, and a back 4 of Nunes. Diaz, who comes in for Kusanov. He'll play alongside Gay and 8 Nori. 3 midfield of Rodri, Bernardo Silva, who scored his first Premier League goal on Sunday, and of course Nico O'Reilly, who makes his 4th start in a row after coming off the bench in the previous 2 before that against Manchester United and Brentford. And 3 up front on the right hand side with Foden, who comes in for Marmoush. Foden has not scored in any of his last 9 in the Premier League. And on the left hand side will be their January signing, Antoine Semenyo, who's got 4 Manchester City goals in his 7 appearances so far, and in all of those 7 appearances he started the game. And playing through the middle is Erling Haaland, the number 9. He has scored 7 goals in 7 appearances against Fulham, scoring a hat-trick in the home fixture when they played Fulham back in September 2023, and he has scored 2 in his last 2 against Fulham, both at Craven Cottage. As for the away side, it is 2 changes for them as well from the lineup against Everton at the weekend when they were beaten 2-1, and they both come in the back 4. It's Bernd Leno to remain in goal, and then the back 4 at right back will be Kenny Tete, who replaces Timothy Castagne. At left back will be Ryan Sessegnon, and Joachim Andersen will partner alongside Calvin Bassey, who's back in for his first start since returning from the Africa Cup of Nations. 2 other midfielders will be Sander Berger, whose last goal of his career came against Fulham for Burnley back in December 2023. He'll play alongside Alex Iwobi, who's making appearance number 99 tonight for Fulham. 3 behind the striker. On the right is Harry Wilson. On the left is Samuel Chukwueze. Through the middle in the number 10 position is the number 32 Emil Smith-Rowe. And the striker up front will be the number 7 Raul Jimenez, whose contract does expire at the end of this season. It will be Fulham to kick us off. They will be kicking right to left. It will be Manchester City kicking left to right towards the end where the away support are congregated in the Etihad Stadium. And it is Fulham to get us underway, going all the way back to their captain Anderson, who will play a diagonal ball out to the left. The last touch comes off the head of Ruben Diaz, and it will be a throw-in for Fulham midway inside the Manchester City half. It's been thrown back into their own half to Bassi from Sessegnon. Anderson to Leno in the 18-yard box for Fulham in a full orange kit. The goalkeeper, as it's Leno, having to clear it up towards Wilson. It does take a nick off Semenyo, and it will be a throw-in once more for Fulham, as an early goal for Manchester City will be what they need, because in recent months their first half performances have been very strong, but their second half performances have usually been quite the opposite, and it has cost them in games this season. It's dropped them points as the ball drops into the midfield. Berger loses out to O'Reilly. It's now with Aït-Nouri at left back, just inside the Manchester City half. Recycles the ball, starting again at the back with Mark Gay, who has scored against Fulham this season. It was a 87th minute winner for Crystal Palace at Craven Cottage back at the beginning of December. It's Bernardo Silva on this near side, bringing the ball forward, lays it off to Foden in the short sleeves shirt tonight, the number 47. It's played out to the left-hand side to Gay, who will stride forward with the ball from centre-back. He plays it to Aït-Nouri into Rodri, who's going to clip it with a switch out towards the right-hand side. He finds Bernardo Silva just outside the area, goes to the edge of the box here to Phil Foden. 5-yard pass behind him to Núñez. It's now with Bernardo Silva once more, cutting onto his left foot and crossing the ball into the area, headed down by Anderson. Needs to be dealt with by Sessegnon, who helps it forward, but only as far as Diaz, who glances it back to Gay, who will take it back into his own half to keep it away from Smith-Rowe. Just under 2 minutes in, it's still Manchester City 0, Fulham 0. No big chances as of yet, but Manchester City just teasing and flirting with the Fulham 18-yard box, as they'll want to get a goal early to close that gap to 3 points to Arsenal, who play tomorrow night against Brentford. Commentated live here on this channel in around 24 hours' time. It's Phil Foden just finding the space on this near side. He's going to find the full-back of Núñez, who's got forward from his defensive position. Plays it back into Foden, who goes to the halfway line now to the number 3, Ruben Diaz, who's never scored in his previous 9 against Fulham, as the ball's been clipped out to the right-hand side to Núñez. Chests it forward, but the flag goes up, and that's going to be offside and a free kick for Fulham, who've won just 3 of their 12 away games so far this season in the Premier League, most recently at the end of December against West Ham, and then also in the middle of December against Burnley, and then at the end of November against Spurs. They have not won any of their last 3 on their travels in the Premier League. And there is Marco Silva. He's took on Manchester City 14 times in his career, and he's lost all 14. The biggest defeat was a 6-0 defeat when he was boss at Watford. And against Pep Guardiola, he's took on Guardiola 16 times, 8 away from home and 8 at home, and he's lost all 16. 8 with Fulham, 3 with Everton, 2 with Watford, 1 with Hull, and he's also took on Pep Guardiola whilst he was at Bayern Munich when he was at Olympiacos back in the 2015-2016 Champions League season. As the ball is in the Fulham half with a switch from Anderson, a bit too high for Chukwueze, and that'll be a cheap throw-in to give away for Manchester City to get back in possession. And it's with their number 16 Ballon d'Or winner Rodri just inside his own half. It's now with the number 3 Ruben Diaz once again, not being pressed at the moment, and he'll play it alongside to the left here to Mark Gay, who's only ever lost once to Fulham in his career, and that was last season in a home fixture for Crystal Palace. It's Diaz, 10 yards inside the Fulham half, goes out to this near side to Núñez, everything to his left, goes back here to Diaz, who's now being pressed by Chukwueze, forced to go all the way back to Gianluigi Donnarumma, who made one of the saves of the season on Sunday. stopping that deflected McAllister strike. Once Manchester City had made it 2-1. He's won 12 trophies altogether, Donnarumma, in his career for club and country. Winning the Euros in England in 2021, winning player of the tournament in that Euros, being managed by Roberto Mancini, of course very famous around these parts, winning that Premier League title in 2012. It's still Manchester City on the ball, just knocking it around, just trying to pull out this Fulham structure, trying to find some space if they can. It's Diaz going in between the lines here for O'Reilly. He controls it and keeps it away from Sander Berge. He's just in front of the halfway line here, O'Reilly. Number 33, playing it forward to Rodri. Keeping the ball away from Berge. And then clipping out to the right once more here to Núñez. Has he stayed onside this time around? He has. He chops onto his left foot. He'll cross deep. It's going to be kept in. Is it by Aït-Nouri? He's going to attempt to do so. Can't quite keep it in. And 5.5 minutes in at the Etihad Stadium. It's Manchester City 0, Fulham 0. Bernd Leno still yet to be tested in between the sticks for Fulham, as he's making his 138th Premier League appearance in a row. Bernd Leno, a tremendous record for the German. As we've got two other games kicking off at 7:30, and we've had the Crystal Palace Burnley game delayed by 10 minutes due to heavy traffic in the local area. But it's Villa Brighton at Villa Park, which is 0-0, and Nottingham Forest Wolves, which is still 0-0. 7 minutes in, as Batty at left centre-back in the box, going forward here to Iwobi. Not being closed down at the moment, and can play a pass towards the halfway line. Cut out by Diaz, it drops here for Foden, through for Haaland. Into the area he goes, he has the shot blocked by Anderson. And he'll roll out for a Manchester City corner on this near side. A sloppy ball to give away there from Alex Iwobi, who's never won in his previous 18 against Manchester City. And something you don't say very often about Erling Haaland, he did look like he just lacked a bit of confidence over that. Took the shot on very early. Did win his side a corner, so it's not the worst result. But he has only scored two in his last 8 in the Premier League, Erling Haaland, and they've both come from the penalty spot. As Manchester City crowd the 6-yard box. Phil Foden's got 2 arms in the air. He's going to put an in-swinging delivery in. It's a deep one, very deep. It's going to be headed back across by Gay, kicked on by O'Reilly, blocked by Jimenez, and it's going to be a corner on the opposite side this time around for Manchester City, who have only won one of their last 3 at home in the Premier League. Drawing twice, 1-1 with Brighton and Chelsea, and then winning against Wolves in their most recent home game. Bernardo Silva being closed down by Chukwueze on that far side, trying to work space for a cross. He does cross it in towards the edge of the area. It's going to be hit by Foden and deflected just over the crossbar. And I think it'll be another corner for Manchester City as the rain continues to pour up north here in Manchester. Ooh, stray I think off the face of Joachim Andersen. Good technique on the edge of the box by Foden. Hits it sweet. And just a bit high, bit wide, away from goal, but it will be another set piece for Manchester City. Instead of Bernardo Silva taking it, it will be Phil Foden. It's going to be an outswinger this time, just the one arm raised, and that's the right arm from Foden. In it goes to the middle of the box towards Diaz, headed one by Jimenez, drops to the edge of the box to Rodri, who hits a volley out for a throw-in. And that sums up that strike. He doesn't mind a goal for Manchester City. Rodri, he scored 27 since joining in July 2019. But he's yet to score this season in the Premier League. Did score in their 10-0 win in the FA Cup against Exeter. Never scored in his career against Fulham, Rodri. Hadn't played any of the previous 3 against tonight's opposition, of course, returning at the back end of last season from the ACL injury he picked up against Arsenal towards the end of September. As Iwobi clears it away for Fulham in a right-back position. Switched out to the left here to Chukwueze, who takes it beyond the halfway line. Scored twice in this fixture. The man on loan from AC Milan, Samuel Chukwueze. It was his first set of Fulham goals since joining in the summer. As it's Tete at right-back, sending it forward towards Jimenez on the halfway line. Chested touch goes to Smith Rowe. Try to put it up in the air towards Sessegnon. Header away from Núñez. Chested by Smith Rowe, but the touch gets away from him. One back by Haaland to Rodri. It's now O'Reilly Out wide right, it drops to Foden, who's got Bassey coming across to put him under some pressure. Gets it back into the midfield to Rodri, midway side the Fulham half. Goes out to this near side to Núñez. Forward to Bernardo Silva. Finds the run of Núñez in the box, gets it across. It's deflected towards Foden, who fakes the first shot and almost slips it through Leno, who gets down low very well to stop the ball going in the net for 1-0. 10 minutes in, still Manchester City 0, Fulham 0, probably the biggest chance of the game. A good attacking run from Núñez, found by Silva on the byline. He pulled it back towards Semenyo, ended up dropping to Foden, who faked the first shot and then had one eventually with his right foot, just a bit too close to Leno, who got down quickly to stop it. But it's been a heavy Manchester City start, just like the rain that pours at the Etihad at the moment, as they've gone to the far side here to the number 21, Ryan Aït-Nouri, who has scored against Fulham previously in his Wolves days in a 2-1 home win for them back in March 2024. As it's Rodri switching out to this right again. He's done that ball plenty of times already in this game. It's Núñez going back into Diaz. Everyone behind the ball here for Fulham. As it's Rodri spraying it out to this left-hand side to Aït-Nouri towards the final third. He's running at Harry Wilson. Ryan Aït-Nouri chopping onto his right foot and playing it back to Gay. And then across to Rodri, about 30 yards out from goal. He clips it into the box towards Núñez, who's been left unmarked. It's a save from Leno. Tried to go across the goalkeeper. It was well saved, but the flag does eventually go up on Matheus Núñez for the second time already in this game. Never scored against Fulham in his career, Matheus Núñez, and it stays that way for now. He was offside as he met that cross with a volley from around 5 yards out. The angle was tight, and it was saved by Bernd Leno. So free kick in the 18-yard box. Fulham taking their time, and it's going to be taken long by the German goalkeeper. Kicks it long, out towards the Fulham right-hand side, towards Jimenez. Gets the better of Gay, and it falls here for Harry Wilson. Back to the halfway line to Kenny Tete. Anderson, gone all the way back to Leno. Good pressing from Manchester City. It's now with the right centre-back of Anderson. Long ball forward, looking for Wilson on the right wing, well over the Welshman's head, and out for a throw-in for Manchester City. Frustrated with himself there, Joachim Anderson, who's usually better when distributing the ball out from the back. Of course, former teammates Mark Gay and Joachim Anderson. As here is their new January signing on the ball, Mark Gay. Bringing it forward beyond the halfway line, into the middle to O'Reilly, back into Bernardo Silva to complete the triangle. Now Rodri goes to his left here to Gay, being closed down by Smith Rowe. Goes back inside to the right to Rodri, forward to O'Reilly. It's now Bernardo Silva, surrounded by black shirts, and he's been dispossessed in the end, and it's now with Chukwueze. Going back into the left back of Sessegnon, who's currently keeping Anthony Robinson out of the team. The American fullback, who was once a target of Manchester City not too long ago. It's Bassey out of his own 18-yard box, playing it forward towards Sessegnon. He's overhit it, and that's another throw-in given away. Marco Silva dropping his head towards the floor once that had gone out of play. Not happy with Calvin Bassey's distribution there. Finished third place in AFCON. Calvin Bassey, but did miss the third round playoff game, suspended after picking up too many yellow cards in the previous games. That's Aït-Nouri in a left wing position on that far side. Into the box he goes. Still with Aït-Nouri, runs into traffic. Ball drops to O'Reilly, who takes over. O'Reilly beyond two bodies, can't get around the third. And the ball eventually drops into the gloves of Bernd Leno. And it's Fulham who want to try and break. He throws it to the left back, Sessegnon, who will go forward to Chukwueze. Tries to lay it off to Iwobi. He could have turned forward instead, but it's gone to Bernardo Silva. Lays it off to his left 5 yards to O'Reilly. Fancies the shot from afar. No control in that shot. Flies straight over the crossbar. And it's still Manchester City 0, Fulham 0, 14 minutes in. Usually has a better strike than that. Nico O'Reilly, who's got the one league goal so far this season. That was in their home win against Bournemouth at the beginning of November. Has scored this season at the Bernabeu in the Champions League in Manchester City's 2-1 win against, at the time, was Xabi Alonso's Real Madrid. As from a long ball forward, it's dropped to the chest of Núñez, goes all the way back to Donnarumma, in the 18-yard box. He's got the full pink goalkeeper strip on tonight for Manchester City. Keeps it simple, going across to Mark Gay on the edge of the 18-yard box. Did lose 2 of their first 3 Premier League games this season. Manchester City away to Brighton and at home to Spurs. It's the only home game they've lost so far this season in the Premier League. Manchester City also losing at home in the Champions League, but that was to Bayer Leverkusen. All games around the grounds that kicked off at 7:30 are still at 0-0. Got Sunderland hosting Liverpool at 8:15, which will kick off in around half an hour time. Nori again on the left-hand side. Tete stopping him in his tracks. The Algerian still got it for now, and then eventually loses out. Nori stops playing. The referee didn't blow his whistle, and Anderson kicks it off Semenyo, and that'll be a goal kick for Fulham. Always play to the whistle, even if you don't get the decision you think you should get. Shouldn't just stop playing and expect the referee to give it in your favour. Manchester City boss Pep Guardiola in discussion with the 4th official Tom Neild. Both of them very much wrapped up for the poor conditions at the Etihad tonight. Leno playing it to Iwobi in the corner of the box. They're playing risky here, Fulham, but they've worked it well. Iwobi back into Anderson. Now with Leno, the goalkeeper, who can kick it away with a big kick down the right-hand side, well over the head of Jimenez, and it'll be easily swept up at the back by Ruben Diaz, who signed a new contract until 2029 last August. Been at the club since September 2020. Brought in from Benfica for £65 million as Nunes loses it on this near side to Sessegnon. Bit cheap that from Mateus Nunes. Bassi lifts it out wide left to Chukwueze. It's now Sessegnon into Bassi once more. It's now Leno in the 18-yard box. Semenyo's pressing. He plays it forward and it just about reaches Anderson. Sander Berger to the far side now to Tete. Lifting it down the right channel, looking for Jimenez. It's absolutely nowhere near the Mexican. And it's another throw in just inside their own half here for Manchester City, who are second, not just in the Premier League, but also in the home form table as well, picking up 29 points from their 12 they played here so far this season. Arsenal have played 13 at home and have won 32 points. So if they win today, Manchester City, they'll match Arsenal's home form. As Fulham have the ball with their back line, left centre-back of Bassi. Forward to Jimenez, who's dropping in to try and link up the play a little bit better because the direct ball towards him aren't actually going anywhere near him at the moment. 2 in his last 5 for the Mexican in the Premier League against Manchester United in that recent away defeat, but then also in the recent home win against Chelsea before Liam Rosenior took charge. And he's in a left-back position here, Jimenez, playing it inside towards Sander Berger, and then to Sessegnon, who can't get the pass to a teammate, but then he intercepts the next Manchester City pass, and Bassi can bring it away. Not got many options around him, and he slips on the turf there, Calvin Bassi. And it's Bernardo Silva with the ball on the halfway line, trying to dink it over the top towards Haaland, nodded down by Anderson, but Tete's there with a strong tackle to keep it away from Foden. It's got a little bit scrappy within the last couple of minutes, and that's with Fulham trying to take a bit of control in the game. With their left back here, Sessegnon forward to the halfway line to Jimenez. It's a better ball towards him, but he can't hold it up. Easily shrugged off there by Gay. And it's now with Rodri forward to O'Reilly. Try to poke it towards Semenyo. Cut out by Anderson. And it's now to the right flank to Harry Wilson. Midway side his own half. Keeping it away from Nori. Playing it into Bernd Leno, the goalkeeper. 33 years of age now. Turns 34 at the beginning of next month. Leno with his foot on top of the ball on the penalty spot. Plays it to the left to Bassi. Forward to Wilson. Iwobi. Out wide to Sessegnon. Lifted ball up towards Chukwueze, who's got him behind, but the flag will go up early as he was well offside there, the Nigerian winger. Didn't score any goals in his 5 appearances at AFCON. Samuel Chukwueze does have 7 in 56 caps for Nigeria. He was actually part of the Villarreal team who beat Manchester United in the Europa League final in 2021, but he didn't actually feature in the final. He was injured, unfortunately. Chukwueze did play a part in the previous round, scoring 1 in 11 appearances in that Europa League campaign. Bernardo Silva on this near side. Everyone behind the ball for Fulham, bar Jimenez. Diaz. Plenty of time on the ball here for the 28-year-old, who's played 12 appearances at major tournaments for Portugal. Rodri on halfway, going to his left 5 yards to Nico O'Reilly. Not wanting to waste their energy here, Fulham, with any unnecessary presses that might get them played through. Diaz still 0-0 here at the Etihad. We've just ticked over the 20th minute on the clock. With Diaz on the halfway line, looking to play down the Manchester City right flank. He'll bring the ball forward, about 20 yards inside the Fulham half, lays it off to his right to Núñez, who then goes back into Diaz on the angle. Not quite the high-scoring game we had in the reverse fixture at Craven Cottage. To be fair, by this point in that game, it was only 1-0 to Manchester City. Haaland scoring in the 17th minute. It's on the edge of the Manchester City box with Gay. Forward to Foden, who's picked up some free space in the midfield, takes it beyond the halfway line. He's got Núñez marauding forward on the near side. It's a really short pass, though, from Foden. Nowhere near Núñez. Dealt with by Sessegnon, who goes into Bassi. It's now in the left-back position in their defensive third with Sessegnon. Going short to Iwobi on the near side. Berger back into Sessegnon. Maybe a chance for City to nick the ball here. He's cleared it down the line, touched on by Iwobi, but straight to Bernardo Silva. Lays it off to O'Reilly, who will strike from afar once more. And again, a good distance over the crossbar there from the youngster. And it remains Manchester City 0, Fulham 0. 21 minutes into this game. That's 2 pop shots he's had from afar now, O'Reilly. Neither of them have been anywhere near, unfortunately, for the 20-year-old. Who got his first 2 England caps in the most recent international break. As Diaz tackles Jimenez fairly and wins the ball. It drops to Haaland 30 yards from goal. Lifts it towards Foden, can't take it under control. And it runs through for Kenny Tete, who will set Smith Rowe away on the Fulham right. Facing back towards his own goal. Finding Sander Berger. Tete. Then back into Joachim Andersen, and it can just have a moment of relaxation on the ball here, the Cottagers. Sander Berger in between the right back and the right centre back. Plays it to Joachim Andersen. Across to the left to Bassi. Forward to Jimenez, back to goal, but he spins away from Diaz and plays it through the gap here to Chukwueze. Flag stays down for now. In the final third, he's not got many options around him. Goes to the edge of the box to Wilson, who's just come across to this left-hand side. He's now found Iwobi, who's allowed in the box. He's allowed to shoot, and it's Diaz with the big block. Corner given on the near side. Ruben Diaz asking for a flag that never came to his aid. And it's a good job he got that block in for Manchester City. Chukwueze may have been offside from the original first pass. It's hard to tell. It was definitely a tight one, for sure. Iwobi with the shot, trying to go across goal. The former Arsenal and Everton man. Did score in the reverse fixture. So it's going to be Iwobi to cross into the near post, and the front man Foden's actually got a header away on the ball. Always for Sessegnon. It's now Iwobi. We'll go back here to Wilson, who's got a decent angle to whip the ball in. He's going to put a cross in towards the far post. It's been caught eventually by Donnarumma. He wants a bit more movement up the top of the pitch. He will calmly roll it instead to the right back, Núñez. It's now Rodri. Does Fulham quickly get back into their shape? And he switches it to the left to Ryan Aït-Nouri. Just his 16th appearance of the season for the Algerian. It is his 3rd start, though, in a row in the Premier League. As Rodri tries to play out wide to the right, finds Núñez, who's always the man spare, crosses in towards Haaland, who can't quite get the header, but he drops to Semenyo! And he is in goal-scoring form in the colours of blue. That's 5 goals now for Antoine Semenyo since joining. 5 goals in 8 appearances. And that's more of a poacher's finish, that, from the Ghanaian. Dropped to him in a very fortunate way. But he was in the right place at the right time. And that's his 6th in 9 against Fulham in his career. Ball was played out to the right side to Núñez, who crossed it in towards Haaland, who Looked like he headed it on, but it might have actually been Berger who headed it the wrong way. Headed it towards his own goal instead of away from goal. And Semenyo just had to lightly jog towards the ball, stretch his right boot out to it, and just lifted it over Leno from a couple of yards out. Yeah, went over the head of Haaland, and I don't think Berger quite expected it to land on his head. Couldn't direct it away from goal. And on his toes, ready waiting, was Antoine Semenyo. And what a signing he's looking to be. He can't stop scoring at the moment. They're number 42. It's 5-8. And Manchester City lead at the Etihad. It's Manchester City 1, Fulham 0. As Manchester City are looking to make it 20 wins in a row in all competitions against Fulham. That would be 17 Premier League wins, 2 in the FA Cup and 1 in the League Cup as well. But I don't think Antoine Semenyo could have expected his move to be going as well as this. He labelled it as the perfect environment for his development. Now reaching the age of 26, he is coming towards his prime years. And for Bournemouth, he had a ridiculous goal-scoring record this season. He was scoring 1 in every 2 Premier League games for them. And it's crazy how sometimes talent and ability can't quite be spotted at an early age, because as a youngster he had unsuccessful trials at Arsenal, Spurs, Millwall, had an 8-week trial as well at Crystal Palace at the age of 15. But it's all come good for him now. And he is spearheading Manchester City towards another Premier League title as a flick on from a throw-in has reached Smith Rowe, but his touch just gets away from him. That's now with Donnarumma for Manchester City. Rodri to the left to Gay. The touch is slightly heavy for himself, but he keeps away from Jimenez, and then it's played out to the left. It's dummied by O'Reilly for Aït-Nouri beyond the halfway line. Chops back and then has to restart. Slightly sucks out the energy of that potential counter-attack, and it's Ruben Diaz on the ball on the halfway line. We've also had a goal at Selhurst Park. It's Crystal Palace 1, Burnley 0, as Foden on this near side keeps the ball away from Bassi. Then into the middle towards Núñez. Silva, Rodri to Núñez. Back to the halfway line again now to Ruben Diaz. It's the first Crystal Palace goal for Jørgen Strand Larsen, their club record signing on deadline day from Wolverhampton Wanderers. I hope that Crystal Palace game is more eventful and exciting than their one at the weekend, which we commentated on here. It was a poor game, that Brighton Crystal Palace match. It was a bit of a painful watch, I must admit. There's Phil Foden on the right-hand side. In the final third, they're being shown away from goal here from the press of Sessegnon. Bernardo Silva going into a more central area here to Rodri. Forward to Diaz, and then into the centre circle now with Gay. 5 yards forward to O'Reilly. Across to his right to Rodri. Clipping out to the right once more to Bernardo Silva. Controls it and plays it forward to Foden. Towards the corner flag. Goes back into Bernardo Silva. Wanting to try and play it forward. He kicks it off the left boot of Sessegnon. And that's going to be a throw in towards the final third for Manchester City. Already got the ball moving. It's across to their number 15, Mark Gay. Born in the Ivory Coast, but moved to London at the age of 1. And has 26 England caps, as the ball can't be controlled by Aït-Nouri on that near side. And the ball's cheaply given away for Fulham to try and get their foot on the ball if they can. Have lost 3 of their last 4 Premier League games, Fulham, which has got them currently slumped in 12th position. Sessegnon at left back into Iwobi. Back out wide towards Chukwueze, who will beat Diaz to it. He's been touched tight to him, but he keeps the ball moving. Sessegnon. Iwobi forward with space down the left here for Jimenez, who then plays it through for Smith Rowe. There's a man over of Wilson, gets the ball, one-on-one with Aït-Nouri. Wilson on that left foot, tries to play it through for Smith Rowe, but he gets it back as it's deflected to him. And the shot saved by Donnarumma and cleared by Aït-Nouri. That's the first real time Fulham have opened up Manchester City. And it's just before the half-hour mark. It was a great ball into the space by Smith Rowe into Wilson, who automatically took a touch inside for his left foot. Tried to slip the ball through for Smith Rowe, but it deflected back to him, and then he had a shot towards the bottom left corner, But Donnarumma was down low quick to save as Chukwueze on the left-hand side gets the better of Foden just outside the area. He's got Sessegnon with him, but Foden eventually gets the tackle in and takes the ball off him. It's now Bernardo Silva in a right-back position to Nunes, the right-back, out-muscling Jimenez, and then into the middle for Haaland, who can keep it away from Anderson. He is caught and fouled, but the play will continue as Antoine Semenyo's been fed through in behind by O'Reilly. Semenyo back to O'Reilly. The angle's tight, but that's no problem for O'Reilly. Doubles Manchester City's lead. It's 2-0 at the Etihad before the half-hour mark. He's had a couple of shots outside of the box, O'Reilly, which have gone nowhere near goal. By that time, he was calm and composed, and from a tight angle, he was able to lift it over Leno into the back of the net to score his second league goal of the season. They've both come here at the Etihad. It was Haaland's important touch just to beat Anderson ahead of the ball. And it was O'Reilly to Semenyo. Semenyo carried the ball forward, waited for the run of O'Reilly into the box. It was an underlapping run. And it was just a cheeky little dink over the German goalkeeper. Sweetly done. And not surprisingly, Manchester City dominate a first half of football. It'll be interesting to see if they can carry this on into the second half. But at the moment, 31 minutes in, it's Manchester City 2, Fulham 0. Important goal that, because Fulham were just starting to show glimpses of potentially hurting this Manchester City back line. Donnarumma having to make a save just a minute or two before. But from defence to attack very quickly, Manchester City double their lead, and it does look like they're going to win their 20th game in a row against Fulham in all competitions, which is absolutely ridiculous. As it's Tete to head a long diagonal switch away for Fulham, but it's dropped all as far as Bernardo Silva. O'Reilly, the goal scorer of the second. Finding Nate Nori. It's now with Silva to Gay. Would have given some real false hope that for Fulham, because they probably should have done slightly better with that chance they created at 1-0 with Harry Wilson. Nunes into the middle to Rodri. It's a bit of a hospital ball, but he keeps it alive. It's now Foden, trap plate through for Haaland, well defended by Bassi. It's now Sessegnon, dispossessed by Foden, but Jimenez comes out to help. Sessegnon all the way back to Bassi, just outside of his 18-yard box. Now Leno, poor left-footed clearance, straight to Rodri on the edge, tries to dink it for Semenyo, drops instead for O'Reilly, who wants to shoot, will shoot, it deflects and bobbles away for a corner. The Manchester City players are asking for a handball there on Joachim Andersen, as Rodri tried to dink it through originally, I think for the run of Haaland. Off the top of the shoulder, I think that's a harsh handball if it was given. O'Reilly was still able to get the shot off. Simply not good enough, that clearance from Leno. And O'Reilly, who will be full of confidence in front of goal after scoring. So it looks like the handball's been waved away, and rightly so. We have got Neil Davis on VAR tonight, as it's an in-swinger from Foden. It's deep to the back post towards O'Reilly. Comes off the head of Bassi instead. It will drop for Nori on this far side. He's a little bit isolated here, the Algerian. And he'll go all the way back towards the halfway line now to Nunes. Rodri in the centre circle. It's Fulham push out. Don't want to be sat too deep, but they don't want to play too high of a line in case it's exposed. Bernardo Silva plays it back inside to Nunes. Of course, once a central midfielder. That's what he was bought as from Wolves for £53 million, now been converted as a full-back. It's not the first time Pep Guardiola's done that to a central midfielder. Done it to the likes of Fabian Delph and Zinchenko as well. Here's Nunes, tries the back heel into Bernardo Silva, cut out by Sessegnon. Now Bassi in a left-back position to Sessegnon, who clears it down the Fulham left. Headed forward by Rodri to Nunes. Silva, try to find Nunes once more with a fancy flick, but it's been cut out by Iwobi. Berger, Chukwueze, Wilson kicks it straight off Aït-Nouri, and then cleared away by Anderson as they tried to feed through Erling Haaland. Well brought down by Smith Rowe towards halfway. Deflected ball does drop to Sander Berge in the Manchester City half. He's got Jimenez making a run in behind, but he just timed the run late, and he will let the ball run through for Diaz. He knew he was offside there. Raul Jimenez had that very scary injury over 5 years ago now with the fractured skull away at Arsenal. Picked that up in November 2020, and his first competitive game back was in August 2021. Ended up leaving Wolves for Fulham in July 2023 for £5.5 million. And he's now making his 19th start in a row in the Premier League. Raul Jimenez, that's a run which started when they played Arsenal at home in the middle of October. Gay, 10 yards in front of the halfway line for Manchester City. In the Fulham half, Rodri lifted ball to Aït-Nouri, chests it, keeps it simple, going back to Gay. Playing in triangles here, Manchester City. They lead 2-0 at the Etihad Stadium, 9 minutes until the break. Diaz, tripped from behind by Jimenez. And the referee, Paul Tierney, will give the free kick in favour of the home side, who are unbeaten in their last 5 games since that shock defeat to Bodo Glimt. But an absolute ridiculous game at Anfield on Sunday. Went behind in the 74th minute with one of the most outrageous free kicks in Premier League history. As there's a VAR check from one of the previous corners. I think they're checking Kenny Tete hair pull on Semenyo. And from previous red cards I've seen with hair pulling, Kenny Tete might be in trouble here. I cannot tell you when that corner was taken. It must have been obviously the most recent one. And I don't think the referee is checking the monitor. He isn't. I'm surprised with that. And the only reason I'm surprised with that is because Michael Keane was recently sent off for a hair pull. And Kenny Tete certainly pulled the hair of Semenyo. I'm not saying he yanked it with any real aggressive force, but he certainly pulls it back during that corner. And the VAR had a look, but they didn't send the referee to the monitor, and he's gone away with it. The Dutchman, Kenny Tete, who's never been red carded during his 5-year spell here at Fulham. Well, 5.5 years, joined in September 2020 from Lyon. After picking up his only ever win against Manchester City, Kenny Tete, he was part of that Lyon squad that beat them in the Champions League quarter-final in 2020. You might remember that very famous Sterling miss from a couple of yards out late on in that game. As Gay picks the ball up from Smith Rowe. Foden charges forward. He's not being closed down. Slips it to his left to Semenyo, just away from the Ghanaian, who can't keep it in on this byline. And that will be a goal kick for Fulham. Antoine Semenyo, third in the Premier League goal-scoring charts on 13. 3 for Manchester City and 10 for Bournemouth. He's also got 2 more for Manchester City. 1 in the League Cup against Newcastle in the first leg, and then also 1 on his debut against Exeter in the FA Cup. Long ball forward from Leno. Header won by Gay. Picked up by Sander Berge, who's overran it, and he's been dispossessed by Aït-Nouri. Aït-Nouri forward to Foden. In the middle to Haaland. Onto his left foot. Shoots early! And Haaland does what Haaland does best. Into the corner, no problem at all. He's now scored in his last 3 games in a row against Fulham. It's 8-8 against the Cottagers. And he's now scored 61 Premier League goals at the Etihad in 61 Premier League games here. And Manchester City have been absolutely unstoppable in this first half. And again, it was from winning the ball back and just attacking straight away. Started with Aït-Nouri, forward to Foden. Saw Haaland had a bit of space on the edge of the area. Played it to the Norwegian, who took 2 touches to get out of his feet and then hit the shot across the goal. Through the legs of Barsi into the bottom right corner. No chance for Bernd Leno. And it's now 2 in a row for Erling Haaland. But it's his first from open play since December. And Manchester City have a very kind lead at the Etihad. It's Manchester City 3, Fulham 0. I do believe that's what Erling Haaland is best at. More instinctive. He didn't have much time to think. 1 touch, 2 touch, shot, goal. Less time he has to think. I feel like the better he is with his chance taking. And with 5 minutes left to go with this first half, Manchester City are 3-0 up and they're 3 points behind Arsenal in the league table. Of course, Arsenal have got an extra game to play, and that's away at Brentford tomorrow, but that's not an easy fixture. Of course, they'll be favourites, but you just never know with Brentford this season. They've been the surprise package under Keith Andrews. As Núñez gives the ball away, deflects Chukwueze. Jimenez takes over. He's tripped and caught by Silva, and that will be a yellow card for the captain, Bernardo Silva, who's on his 18th start in a row in the Premier League. A run starting at the end of October. And I feel like in that win against Liverpool on Sunday, take away his goal, he showcased why he is the most played player by Pep Guardiola. He's now starting to become a bit of a Rolls Royce. At the age of 31, turning 32 in August, he's fantastic to watch. So delicate with his touches on the ball, keeps it really well. His gaze header goes to Wilson, through for Jimenez, who can get the shot on goal, and it's just avoided Smith Rowe. And it goes wide of the post and away for a goal kick. That was a chance for Fulham to try and close the gap in this game. Ball forward, it was a poor header from Gabe, straight to Wilson. Jimenez made a run off the back of it, and 6 yards out, he tried to lift it over Donnarumma, like O'Reilly lifted it over Leno for City's second goal. And as it was going off target, Smith Rowe just tried to nick in and make the goal his own, but he couldn't quite reach at the centre attacking midfielder, and it stays Manchester City 3, Fulham 0 with 42 minutes played. Fulham have got it back with Anderson. Given away, though, by Sessegnon in the centre circle. O'Reilly held back by Berger. And that's going to be a free kick. And it's going to be no yellow card for the Norwegian, Sander Berger, who's got 7 defeats in 7 against Manchester City. And it looks like that will be 8-8 for him. Started every game this season, Sander Berger, bar one, when he came off the bench in their 2-2 draw at home to Liverpool at the start of the new year. Crystal Palace 2-0 up as well against Burnley. Both goals scored by Jørgen Strand Larsen. It's Foden on the right-hand side, striding towards goal. On the edge of the box, he goes for the shot, which deflects off the hand of Bassi, but that'll be very, very harsh to give. And it'll be Sessegnon at left back to clear it up towards Jimenez. Cut out by Rodri. Loose ball picked up by O'Reilly. Rodri takes over forward to Haaland. Into Rodri again. Haaland makes a run off the back of Bassi. Tries to find him, but his volley is stopped as Sessegnon gets in the way. And that will be Leno with the ball in his 2 hands. Foden's shot came off the toe of Anderson, then onto the hand of Bassi, whose arms were in a very natural running position. Never ever going to be given that penalty kick, as the ball forward by Fulham is chested down by Jimenez, can't be controlled by Wilson. Foden out to the left to O'Reilly. Touch is slightly poor, he loses out to Smith Rowe in the end. It's now with Tete. Into Smith Rowe again, on the halfway line, wants to go for a big switch towards Chukwueze. Not enough on it. Núñez panics a clearance and it drops straight to Harry Wilson in front of the centre circle. He'll bring it out to the left-hand side. 1 minute left of the 45. And it's Manchester City 3, Fulham 0. Big switch from Iwobi, pinpoint, straight to the chest of Smith Rowe, who goes back into Anderson. Everyone in an outfield shirt in the Manchester City half of Fulham. Not happened many times in this first half, as Chukwueze from the right flank, playing it to Iwobi, lays it off to his right to Smith Rowe. Back into Tete, who gets the cross in towards Jimenez, who wins the header. Straight at Donnarumma. Comfortable save for the Italian, who tries to quickly distribute to Semenyo on the left, just slightly away from the former Bournemouth man. And it'll be a throw in on the halfway line for Fulham, taken quickly to Sander Berger. To the far side to Tete. Try to lift it in behind for Wilson, headed down by Gay. Loose ball, can't be kept alive by Rodri. Chukwueze will go for the shot instead himself. And he lifts it over the crossbar, but there was a good run on there by Sessegnon from left back, who'd got into the attack in third, but kind of had one thing on his mind there, Samuel Chukwueze. Showing that replay again with the hair pull from Kenny Tete. I just think in terms of consistency, I'm pleasantly surprised they've not given that as a red card. Just more so for the fact that it's been given before for hair pulls like that. We've had 2 minutes added on here. We've played 30 seconds of it already. Big kick from Donnarumma. Controlled by Iwobi. Then played forward to Jimenez. Caught by Nori. Free kick given. It's just in front of the halfway line on the Fulham right-hand side. They might use this as a chance to try and get the centre-backs forward and maybe try and work off some loose balls and try and get a consolation goal before the break, because it's Nottingham Forest 0, Wolves 0 at half-time at the City ground. Wilson, big kick towards the edge of the box. Goes over Anderson towards Chukwueze, who will keep it in, and he will rush across. And it's gone straight over the crossbar and away from goal and out for a goal kick for Manchester City and Gianluigi Donnarumma. Just one clean sheet in their last 6 in the Premier League, Manchester City. And that was in their home win against Wolves in game week 23. Looking a very frustrated figure there. Marco Silva, who just cannot get the better of Manchester City or Pep Guardiola, as his contract's also running out at the end of this season. Marco Silva, alongside Harry Wilson, their best player so far this season, making his 175th appearance for Fulham this tonight. Harry Wilson, as it's Tete chesting the ball down, playing it to Wilson. As we played the 2 added on here, waiting for the referee's whistle, and that's what we get from Paul Tierney. And it is 2-0, it's 3-0 at the break at the Etihad Stadium. And it has been all Manchester City once again. Like we know they can. They've had a very dominant first 45 minutes. But 15 of them is where the goals came. The first one in the 24th minute. Antoine Semenyo scoring his 5th Manchester City goal already in just his 8th appearance for the club. It was a cross into the box which went over the head of Haaland. And Berger for Fulham couldn't quite head it away from goal. He headed it towards goal where Semenyo was waiting, lifted it over the leg of Leno, made it 1-0. And then 6 minutes later, from defence to attack, Manchester City got their second. It was Foden who won the ball originally, getting back doing his defensive work. It was Haaland who had the ball. He had to get there ahead of Anderson, who came sliding, and he did. Poked it to Nori, and that's when the attack started. It was O'Reilly who then took it forward, played it to Semenyo. O'Reilly continued his run. It was played back through to him, and then on a tight angle, he lifted it over the goalkeeper. Nice little dink and made it 2-0. And then on the 39th minute, Erling Haaland has now scored again in the Premier League from open play. He was played the ball by Phil Foden. He took 2 touches to get out of his feet and then slotted it into the bottom right corner. There's been a lack of Fulham chances. The only main chance they had was when they forced Donnarumma into a save at 1-0. But other than that, there's been very little to sing about for Fulham. But Manchester City are making their presence known in this title race, as at half-time here at the Etihad Stadium, it's Manchester City 3, Fulham 0. And the gap at the top is closed to 3 for now. We do have Sunderland taking on Liverpool in the 8:15 kick-off at Stadium of Light. So we will watch the next 15 minutes of this as we wait for the second half of the game between Manchester City and Fulham. So Sunderland in their home strip, of course, and Liverpool in their green kit. Don't know if that's their away kit or their third kit. Not too well informed on which kit's which. But of course, they are without Dominic Szoboszlai after that very dramatic red card at the end of the game against Manchester City. As it's a fortress at the moment for Sunderland. They've not lost yet in the Premier League at home, which is exactly what every Premier League club who get promoted need to do. Need to make it very difficult for teams when they travel to their stadium. Sunderland have done it. Leeds aren't too far behind. They make it very difficult at Elland Road as well. As Burnley have got one back against Crystal Palace. Palace 2, Burnley 1. Hannibal with the goal for Burnley, so they've halved the deficit there. Corner kick for Liverpool early on the far side. Cross, I think, from Wirtz coming off Alderete. And it looks like it's going to be Wataru Endo at right back, which is interesting. Joe Gomez is on the bench, who of course can play right back, but I think he's missed the last couple of games injured. He has since that away defeat to Bournemouth. They have got Calvin Ramsey on the bench, who is a right back, but he has not played senior football for Liverpool for a very long time, so I think he's gone for more experience, even though obviously Endo's not naturally a right back. Cross goes in, headed away at the near post for Sunderland. It's now with Robertson on the halfway line. He's going to clip it forward towards Van Dijk, who heads it on. It's just headed away from the runner Gakpo by Ballard. And it's Sunderland to have it in their 18-yard box with Robin Roofs, who's been one of the signings of the season, it must be said, brought in. Because, of course, they came up with Anthony Patterson in goal, and it didn't seem like that was an area they needed to improve. He's a very solid goalkeeper, but clearly Regis Lebris thought that's where they needed to improve a little bit, Sunderland, and he's been an amazing goalkeeper. It's actually just his second season in senior football for Robin Roofs, the goalkeeper. It's a big game, this one, for the European spots. I mean, Fulham will still want to try and aim towards those positions if possible. It's not completely out of range for them, but this current run of form they're in isn't helping. This will be 4 defeats in 5 in the Premier League for Fulham, because it does look like they're probably going to go on and lose tonight. I think that's a pretty safe bet. Very much Liverpool dominating these first 8.5 minutes. The captain, the Sunderland half, who will know they've got good home form, but will also have to respect the qualities that Liverpool have. In their starting 11 is Gakpo, crosses towards Salah, headed away by Renildo, then played forward by Canate, overhits it. Goal kick for Sunderland. And there is starting to be just some tension between Arne Slot and the Liverpool supporters, of course, not happy with the current form in the Premier League, which is understandable because they won it last season. But to bring in a lot of new signings who were clearly yet to gel. One of the better signings who's almost been fed through in the box there, didn't quite reach it, but Hugo Ekitike has been absolutely sublime. I think he's a terrific footballer, the Frenchman. Having to really fill in with the boots as, of course, Isak is still out injured. He's never quite got going, has he, yet? In a Liverpool shirt, as Burnley have equalised for 2-2. Goes from bad to worse for Oliver Glasner. Finally got a win at the weekend against Brighton away in their derby, but they were 2-0 up here in 33 minutes. Both goals from Strand Larsen, but 2 goals in 4 minutes from Hannibal and Jayden Anthony has given Burnley a level game going into half-time. Their game did kick off 10 minutes later. Theirs kicked off at 22-8 due to traffic in the local area near Selhurst Park. That's Verts on the right-hand side. Try to get the ball away from Lafay. Goes to his goalkeeper. Roof's first-time clearance, left-footed. Stopped by Endo. Got help here from his teammate McAllister, but loses out in the end to Sadiki. It's now Gravenberg who wins it back. Verts on the edge of the area. Plays it to Salah. Back to Gravenberg. Across to McAllister. Robertson. For Gakpo on this near side, running at Mukiele, cuts in, plays it across to Gravenberg, tries to go forward first time to Verts, deflects to McAllister. They still got it here. Ekitike on the left flank. Try to drive inside away from Hume, but then tackled, and he wins the throw-in. The goal kick there for Sunderland. Habib Diarra. Looks like a new signing starting as well for Sunderland. Then new number 10, Angelo. Nilson Angelo, Ecuadorian. Came off the bench against Arsenal. Late on, brought in the January window from Anderlecht. Interesting to see how he does in the Premier League. Clearly still feeling the losses of Mark Gay, Crystal Palace. Conceding 2 goals against Burnley. Also games in the Scottish Premiership as well. Hearts won yesterday. Very dramatically against Hibernian. Let's have a look. So Celtic are 1-0 up against Livingston. And Rangers are 1-0 up against Motherwell. So that means it's Hearts on 57 points, Rangers on 54, and Celtic on 51 with a game in hand. So they could also go up to 54 as well. As it's 3-2 to Burnley. Wow. 3 goals in 7 minutes. And they've gone from 2-0 up to 3-2 down against Burnley. Out of all teams who are struggling the most in terms of form. And it's gone down as an own goal. Do not know what is happening at Selhurst Park. Of course, they've lost their club captain, Mark Gay. Oliver Glasner's announced that he's leaving at the end of the season. So you can see why it's kind of not going exactly to plan for them. But to be in such a commanding lead and then to lose it at home to Fulham is a concern, and it is half-time in that game. Strange stuff at Selhurst Park. Jefferson Lerma has been credited with the own goal. Try to get some thoughts from Crystal Palace. Obviously, their main supporter, Ollie Thomas, who is pretty much their social media supporter. He's just tweeted, "That might be the most bizarre half of football I've ever seen in my entire life," and I can understand why he's saying that. Strange to be 2-0 up and for your new striker to score both. Can't get more of a positive. Because, of course, if it's not in the summer, because it obviously wasn't in January because Mateta stayed, but Mateta will be going in the summer minimum. So they want Strand Larsen scoring now. instead of having to rely on Mateta till the end of the season. And just to collapse like that is scary. Because Crystal Palace not long ago was probably the most informed team in the country. About 9 months ago. Of course, winning the FA Cup as well, and everything that came with that, getting into Europe. It wasn't quite the Europa League, but they were still in it with the Conference League. Sunderland now enjoying a little bit of possession. In the Liverpool half, it's Ballard. Siddiqui to Ballard on the right side of the pitch. Tries to play it forward. It's just overhit, and that will be seen out by Robertson for a goal kick. Switch back over. Make sure we don't miss any of this Manchester City Fulham affair, because it looks like City are going to make it 20 wins in a row against Fulham. You want to call it a bogey team, but if you're going to have a bogey team, if you're Fulham, you'd want it to be a team like Manchester City, who you're not exactly expected to beat, but 20 in a row is quite the negative head-to-head, really. Is again, they're looking at this Tete hair pull, and I can't quite believe he's not been sent off. Quite clearly pulls his hair to gain an advantage. Firstly, that's one of the main things. He pulls his hair and gains an advantage because he gets to the ball, because Semenyo can't go anywhere near it. And more for the fact that Michael Keane, at the start of this year, was sent off for a hair pull. I cannot believe he's not given that as a red card. Very lucky to still be on the pitch. I'm not sure if Marco Silva will be tempted to make any half-time changes. I don't think Manchester City will want to, unless they just rest up some players. They've got a chance to rotate at the weekend. They've got FA Cup 4th round action, but they've once again pulled Salford at home during their run this season. Next Premier League game is in 10 days' time when they host Newcastle United, Saturday night at 8 o'clock. Then after that, the weekend after their last game before the international break, I believe, they travel to Leeds United, Daniel Farke. Yeah, we know that place can be a difficult place to go. I mean, Arsenal made it look very easy, it must be said, hit the weekend with their 4-0 win, but others have also struggled as well, as we are going to get a change. And I think this is a smart change. Erling Haaland has scored his goal. It's his 29th of the season, 22nd in the league. He's now got 42 goals in 42 appearances this season for club and country combined. And he's got 8 in 8 now against Fulham. And he's going to be rested and replaced by Omar Marmoush, who had started 2 of the last 3 in the league, but was dropped back to the bench for tonight's game, as it'll be City to kick off, kicking right to left, Fulham left to right towards their away supporters. Brought down by Foden from the clearance from Donnarumma. Still with Foden towards the corner flag. Being chased down by Sessegnon, who can win the ball back off him and kick it forward. It's played away from Jimenez by the touch from Bernardo Silva, who now has the ball back from Gay. Gay on the right side goes forward to O'Reilly, inside to Rodri. Then forward to Foden. He's got 2 runs, one of Semenyo and the other one of Marmoush to his left. Can't really find either of them. Not a clear pass on for Marmoush or Semenyo. Quick 1-2 of Aït-Nouri, who can get the cross into the box here. It goes behind everyone. And it will run through towards Núñez on the far side. Sessegnon gets there first, kicks it off the Portuguese international, and drops back to Sessegnon. Forward to Chukwueze. Iwobi. Forward to Berger. Forward once more, Chukwueze, then inside to Iwobi. There is a switch on here for Wilson, and he'll find him. Here is Harry Wilson. He's got Tete running around him on the overlap, and he'll find the number 2, who's got Wilson and Smith Rowe with him. He'll go to Wilson, keeps it away from Marmoush towards the final third. He then Misplaces a touch, but he goes through for Smith Rowe, catches Bernardo Silva off his toes. And Smith Rowe's shot to the near post will go for a goal kick. Looked like it may have took a touch, but Smith Rowe wasn't exactly asking for a corner. Very fortunate the way the ball dropped to him on the edge of the area, burst into the box and then shot towards goal. And it is a corner. Do apologise. There mustn't have been an expression on Smith Rowe's face because it was obviously a corner and that's what was given. I didn't see what the ref gave at the beginning. Wilson to the back post. It's punched by Donnarumma, volleyed by Chukwueze very poorly, drops back to him in the end, almost like a touch, and he goes back to Bassi, right-footed shot, blocked. Tete tried to keep it alive, but he fouls Marmoush to win the header. It'll be a free kick for Manchester City. Got to remember, in this fixture, when they met at Craven Cottage, Manchester City were 5-1 up in the 54th minute, and then by the 78th minute, they were only leading by 1, and it was 5-4, so even though it's a very much a different circumstance, you can't quite rule out Fulham yet. They get 1 goal, you just never know. Gay into Rodri, back into the number 20. Bernardo Silva, whose contract does expire at the end of this season. He's got 2 goals against Fulham in his career, one at home, which was in a 4-0 FA Cup win in the 4th round in January 2020. And he is 10th in the all-time appearance makers for Manchester City. This is appearance number 442. And if he scores tonight, it'll be his 75th goal in Manchester City colours. Rodri pass deflects off Berger, but kept alive by O'Reilly just inside the centre circle. Aït-Nouri on the near side, finding O'Reilly. Surrounded by Fulham shirts, just about sneak it back inside to Aït-Nouri. Gay, quick 1-2 of O'Reilly. Now with Diaz, out wide to the right to Núñez. Got Semenyo near him. Semenyo shows too much of it to Chukwueze. It's now with Sessegnon, kicks it off Semenyo, throwing in a left-back position for Fulham with their number 30, Ryan Sessegnon, a former England under-20 international. Spent 5 years at Spurs before leaving on a free to rejoin Fulham, where he was here for 11 years during his first spell, coming right through their academy. Still goalless between Villa and Brighton, and Nottingham Forest, Wolves and Sunderland, Liverpool. Ruben Diaz. Forward to Semenyo on the halfway line, finds the run of Núñez, inside to Foden. Núñez has continued his run, but he just strayed offside, but Semenyo will take it over instead. Tries to square it, Bassi gets across well. And that'll be into the hands of Leno. Could have put it on a plate for Marmoush there, Semenyo, but Bassi got across quickly and he had to. Scored against the Manchester side last season. Calvin Bassey scored against Manchester United in the FA Cup. If they lose tonight, Fulham, which is looking likely, it'll be their 12th loss of the season in the league. They only lost 14 in the entirety of last season, and we've still got 12 more Premier League games to play after tonight for these two sides, as Sander Berger finds Smith Rowe. Down the left channel now for Chukwueze. Cross first time. Stopped on the edge of the box by Gay, but the ball's loose. Foden will just get there first. It's now towards Núñez, who kicks it off Sessegnon. Ball stays in play. Chukwueze on that Fulham left. Going back to Iwobi. Across to Berger, about 30 yards from goal. He's got options to his right. He'll find Kenny Tete. To Wilson. Tete overlaps him. Wilson keeps it with Berger. Bassi as they try and explore the options down the left-hand side again. Chukwueze. Very heavy Nigerian left-hand side there. With Bassi and Iwobi and Chukwueze as well. They've resorted to the right flank again with Tete. Everyone behind the ball for Manchester City, knowing they can't take the foot off the gas in this second half. Tete, tripped by O'Reilly, and that'll be a Free kick on the halfway line for Fulham. Taken quickly to Joachim Andersen. Scored his first Denmark goal recently in the October international break against Greece. Has actually scored here himself at the Etihad in a 4-2 defeat with Palace in August 2022. One of Haaland's first hat-tricks in that game. I think they were 2-0 down at the break in that one, Manchester City, if I remember rightly. Tete right back, midway side his own half. He'll kick the ball long and high up towards Jimenez, who can get the touch ahead of Gay. Wilson takes over. Plays it to his left to Smith Rowe in a more central area. Once more to his left to Iwobi. It's now furthest left to Chukwueze, who will cross it in towards Jimenez, who will win the header on Aït-Nouri, but can't get it down towards goal. And over the crossbar it goes, and it's a goal kick for Manchester City over 7 minutes in this second half. And it's Manchester City 3, Fulham 0. And including tonight's result and their 20 wins in a row, which it looks like they'll get against Fulham, it will be an aggregate score of 62-13 in favour of Manchester City. I don't think I've seen a team so dominant of one fixture before like this in the Premier League era. City try and go direct. They've lost out. It's Tete now from the right-hand side, having to turn back. Play it to Anderson. Iwobi trying to get beyond Bernardo Silva. Loses out. Semenyo falls to the ground, trying to... Looks like he was looking for the free kick there. And it'll be Fulham to win it back. On the far side with Sessegnon. Into Iwobi on the halfway line. Again, having to turn backwards and play the ball to Bassi. Smith Rowe. Finding the ball back to Wilson. Tackle from behind by Aït-Nouri, but he actually touches it through towards Jimenez. Tackle by Diaz, covering his defensive left-hand side well. It's now O'Reilly getting a few kicks and shoves and eventually winning the free kick for Manchester City. And they're going to make another change. They've already made one at half-time. Manchester City taking off Erling Haaland for Omar Marmoush. And it looks like this time it's going to be Tijjani Reinders to come on. Scored 4 in his last 12 in the Premier League, Tijjani Reinders, and that's a run that started with the goal that he scored against Fulham in the reverse fixture, which put Manchester City 2-0 up. Can't be controlled there on the far side by Mateus Nunes. That's going to be a throw in for Fulham as we still wait for that substitution to be made. Smith Rowe try to link up with Tete. Misplaces the pass. Throw in for Manchester City. Just inside the Fulham half. It's now with Foden on the halfway line, going all the way back to Ruben Diaz, who's got 2 league goals this season. Most recently at home to Sunderland, but then also scored away to Newcastle towards the end of November. But his last 2 goals before the one at Sunderland at home were both against Newcastle, and there was a gap between them of 1,435 days between those 2 goals away at Newcastle. The first one was back in December 2021, and then of course the most recent one in November 2025. But already doubled his account for this season with that goal in the home win against Sunderland at the beginning of December. Did miss the last 8 games before Liverpool with a hamstring injury. Ruben Diaz had to come off the bench on Sunday for the injured Kusanov. Still 0-0 in all the other games, bar this one in the Crystal Palace-Burnley game. Bernardo Silva on the far side, on the halfway line. Laying it off for Rodri. Back into Ruben Diaz. Gay, dinking it over the top, looking for Semenyo, chested down by Bassi, and kicked up the pitch right-footed, right back to Gay, He tries to control it, misplay. Smith Rowe can send Harry Wilson away on the right-hand side. Cuts inside, tries the shot, tackle from behind by Aït-Nouri, and he got the ball. A vital touch from the former Wolves fullback, bailing out his new signing, Mark Gate, who completely got the control wrong. And Smith Rowe played it through for Wilson. Again, tried to get onto his stronger left foot, but Aït-Nouri just got the touch around him and got the ball. Had to get it right, the Algerian. Harry Wilson on 8 goals so far this season in the Premier League, scoring 3 in his last 6 against Brighton, Chelsea and Liverpool. He's only scored once against Manchester City, and you might remember it was back in August 2019 for Bournemouth. It was in a 3-1 defeat, but it was an outrageous free kick from around 30 yards out. Of course, didn't mean too much in the end because they lost the game, but it was one hell of a strike. Marmoush on the left wing, into the box, cutting onto with the right foot. It's a heavy touch, so Foden takes over. And the shot saved by Leno. Went towards the bottom right corner as the rain still absolutely pours in Manchester. Yeah, Marmoush wanted to cut inside, but the touch was heavy and it ended up being quite a nice layoff for Phil Foden, who's not scored in any of his last 9, including that Liverpool game when he didn't even come off the bench. He'd only played 33 minutes combined in his last 3 Premier League games, or in the last 3 Premier League games, but he got the start tonight. And he's looked tidy on the ball, assisting the Haaland goal to make it 3-0. Foden on the halfway line, allowed to turn. Plays it to his left to Rodri. He's got Jimenez behind him. It's been won back fairly by the Mexican. Jimenez has got Harry Wilson making another run down the right-hand side. Lays it off behind him to Smith Rowe. To the left it goes to Chukwueze. Having to slow it down, getting it into the middle to Berger. Back into Iwobi, switching it to the right to Tete. They've got bodies forward here, Fulham. Tete. Crosses, it's deep. Lacks quality. Goes over the head of Chukwueze towards Iwobi, who will get there ahead of Marmoush. And it'll be a throw-in for City. Overruns it there, Alex Iwobi. Looks like he's hurt his hand, which is already bandaged up. And we're going to get 3 Fulham changes and 2 Manchester City changes. So the first one, we'll see captain Bernardo Silva be replaced. He'll give the captain's armband to Ruben Diaz. So Bernardo Silva off for Tijani Reinders. The Dutchman already on 5 league goals this season for Manchester City. Most recently scored in the League Cup against Newcastle in the second leg. And the second change will see Mateus Nunes, who had started 19 of the, who has now started 20 of the last 21 league games. He'll be replaced by Abdulkadir Kusanov, who had started the previous 5 in a row for Manchester City, dropped to the bench for tonight behind Ruben Diaz. Had to come off at Anfield at 0-0 due to a collision with Donnarumma. His first ever taste of minutes against Fulham. Kusanov. So that's the 2 City changes. And then for Fulham, they've made 3 changes. Raul Jimenez comes off. So does Samuel Chukwueze and Emil Smith Rowe. For Rodrigo Muniz, Kevin and Josh King. So no time on the pitch on his return for Oscar Bob, who is on the bench tonight for Fulham. So we've got half an hour to go. Still 0-0 in the other 3 games. Villa Brighton 0-0 after an hour. So is Forest Wolves, and with 34 minutes into the game at Stadium of Light, and that's also still 0-0. Loose ball drops on the halfway line to Muniz, plays it behind King, who then pulls back Gay, and it'll be a free kick for Manchester City. No harm in trying to improve their goal difference here for City, who were on a goal difference of plus 30 as of tonight with these goals. For Arsenal, their goal difference is plus 32, scoring 49 and conceding just 17 goals. It's a direct ball forward towards Marmoush by Diaz, headed by Tete to Anderson, who will get there ahead of Semenyo, two former Lyon players there, Kenny Tete and Joachim Andersen, would have played together as well during their time over in France. Sander Berge bringing O'Reilly down, but referee says no. Still with Sander Berge playing it to the left to Kevin, the Brazilian, who can try and play it into the middle towards Muniz. Well cleared there by Gay. They've always got the best names in football, haven't they, the Brazilians? Kevin, club record fee, £34.6 million in the summer from Shakhtar. Scored his first Premier League goal in their last away game, which was that defeat against Manchester United. Thought that they'd nicked an equaliser in that one, scoring so late on, but Benjamin Šeško had different ideas. Switch out towards Kevin. It's read by Kusanov, who heads it to Diaz. Back to Kusanov, then to Diaz again on the edge of the 18-yard box. It's with Donnarumma. To Gay, who's been closed down here by Wilson. Just about lifted over his leg to Aït-Nouri at left back. It will bring the ball forward and then play it inside to Rodri. Gay, just inside the 18-yard box. Switches it across here to Ruben Diaz, who's got space to bring it forward. Goes out wide to Kusanov and then into Foden. Simply done, but it's Silky on the eye. Semenyo on the right wing position, running at Bassi. Cuts inside on the edge of the box, well defended by Bassi. But then Semenyo wins it back with a tackle. O'Reilly, Rodri, midway inside the Fulham half. Plays it to the left to Aït-Nouri. Reinders, Aït-Nouri to Foden in a tight space, but he keeps it glued to that left foot. Rodri, back to the halfway line to Gay. Foden, Rodri, Gay. Of course, a completely different way of playing for the former Crystal Palace captain. Rodri, just inside his own half. Knocking the ball around very nicely here, Pep Guardiola's side. Averages 2.28 points per match in the Premier League. Does Pep Guardiola a sensational record as Rodri has found Foden free. To his left to Dejani Reinders, about 25 yards out from goal. Slows it down, brings Rodri into play. Out to the right to Diaz. O'Reilly. Diaz. Out wide to Kusanov. Keeps it in but gives it away to Kevin. All as far as Rodri, who then is tackled by Sander Berge. It deflects through to the goalkeeper, Bernd Leno. With 25 to go. Does look like Manchester City will collect 3 points, but the question is, will they score any more goals tonight? Interesting run of form now for Fulham because they've lost 4 of the last 5 Premier League games if this result stays the same. But before this run, they were unbeaten in the previous 6. Didn't start their season well though, just winning 3 of their first 11 in the league, which had them in 15th. Now they're in 12th as it stands. Bassi at left centre back, being closed down by Foden. Keeps it away from the number 47, then tripped from behind. And that's going to be a yellow card for Phil Foden. Seems in pain here. Calvin Bassi. Born in Italy, the Nigerian centre back, but grew up in Newham. Yeah, studs down the Achilles. Always a nasty one. Ooh, yeah, nasty stuff. That would have hurt. Foden apologetic, but it won't get him out of a yellow card, which I think was deserved after that foul. Slowly back to his feet, moving rather gingerly. The number 3. Still Palace 2, Burnley 3 in the game at Selhurst Park. Leno going out to the right back, Tete slightly short, and Reinders will try and nick it off him, but instead of taking the ball, he takes down the man, and that will be a free kick for Fulham. Taken quickly to King, the substitute. Iwobi out to the left to Kevin. One-on-one with Kusanov, who's jockeying backwards. Kevin trying to get into the middle of the pitch. He will do that, and he will spray it out to the right side here to Wilson. Onto his left foot. Wanted the cross. Goes back instead to Anderson. Out wide to Tete. Into the box for King, who tries to swipe a ball. The cross blocked off by Gay. And that's a corner kick for Fulham and for Manchester City to defend. It's been 45 days since Manchester City last won 5 games in a row. And that 5 games in a row winning was actually part of an 8 winning game in a row, which included their win against Fulham at Craven Cottage. As the corner goes to the far post, it's going to be met by Semenyo, who can outmuscle Bassi but can't quite clear it far enough. Bassi takes back over. Who's again battling with Semenyo. Bassi gets the last touch and it's out for a throw for City in a right back position. Well defended there by Antoine Semenyo. Scorer of the first tonight, and he's got an unbelievable record against Fulham. It's now 6 goals in 9 for Antoine Semenyo, scoring a brace against them for Bournemouth at the Vitality in October of last year. Thrown from Kusanov towards Marmoush, headed across by Bassi. It's short, but Tete helps him out and then kicks it out of play. Throw in just before the halfway line for Manchester City. We're going to make 2 more changes. One of them being Nico Gonzalez and the other being Ryan Cherky. Gay to the edge of the box to O'Reilly. Rodri curling out wide, but he's overcooked it, the Spaniard, and that'll be a thrown for Fulham just inside the City half, but they've thrown it all the way into their own half to restart with Joachim Andersen. Just missed the one game this season, the Fulham captain, and that was away at Newcastle, injured. Kevin on the left-hand side. He does cross it to the far post towards Muniz, who controls it and gets it across. It's saved by Donnarumma. Has to be hurried away by Reinders, controlled by Semenyo to Rodri, towards Marmoush, cut out on the halfway line by Tete. Kevin. 1-2 with Sessegnon. Kevin on the edge of the box, overrunning it, slipping over, trying to kick the ball forward to a teammate, but runs through for Donnarumma instead. Palmed away that shot from Muniz, the Brazilian striker who's had a frustrating campaign. Out between November and February with a hamstring problem. Did score against Brighton in the first game of the season, a 96th minute equaliser. But he's not started in the league since the end of September. Did actually have a deal in the pipeline ready to go ahead, Rodrigo Muniz, to join Atalanta in Italy, but that collapsed. Marmoush caught from behind, free kick for Manchester City. We are all commentating also. Tomorrow night is Brentford host Arsenal. As we're going to get 2 City changes. And one of the players coming off is going to be Phil Foden, who for Manchester City can still score goals. He's not scored since September 2023 again for England. And that was when they played Scotland away from home. But wasn't scoring tonight. He's not scored in his last 10 now in the Premier League. Or in the last 10 Premier League games. But Ryan Cherky is someone who certainly excites the Manchester City supporters. He scored 2 in his last 8 against Spurs and Forest away from home. Well, we started 2 of the last 6, the Frenchman. And the other change, we'll see. Nico Gonzalez come on, making his 49th appearance for Manchester City. And he has replaced Rodri in the middle of the park. Come on massively this season, Nico Gonzalez, while Rodri was out injured and missing games. Nori away from the challenge of Wilson. Then a low ball down the line here for Semenyo, who will not beat Bassey to it. Good defending again by the Nigerian. Tete. Sander Berger on the near side. Loses out. It's now Gonzalez to Cherky. Gay on the halfway line. To 8 Nori. Gives it away as he tried to play it to a teammate. But then wins it back off King. Last touch off 8 Nori as it dropped to Tete. As there is going to be a welcome home in opposition colours for Oscar Bob. Making just his second appearance for Fulham. He will replace Harry Wilson. Signed for £27 million from Manchester City. But the Blues do have a 20% sell-on clause. Came on in the 83rd minute against Everton. So he's getting a bit more of extra game time tonight. The Norwegian, who had a broken leg between August 2024 and March 2025. Didn't score for Manchester City this season in 9 starts. Did score a goal, though, in the Club World Cup in the summer for Manchester City. As again, Villa Brighton still 0-0. Forest Wolves still 0-0. And also Sunderland Liverpool still goalless. And that is coming towards half time as well. Nori out to the left wing here to Cherky. He is on his right foot. Plays it back to Nori, who will go across towards the right hand side to Kusanov. He's been forced to go all the way back to Donnarumma. Pep Guardiola not happy at all with that. And this is Pep Guardiola's 573rd game in charge. He's lost 90 of the previous 572. And out of those 90 defeats, just 25 of them have been here at the Etihad Stadium. There's Nori getting his arm pulled by Tete, and that will be a free kick in the final third for Manchester City. And Guardiola's record against Fulham in home wins is an aggregate scoreline now of 28-5. Not the greatest of looks for Fulham when taking on Manchester City and Pep Guardiola. Reinders. Marmouche, Gonzalez, Cherky, Kusanov is free on the right-hand side. Doesn't use him yet. Brings Diaz into the fold. It's now Kusanov, Cherky, Semenyo, Cherky, all on this Manchester City right-hand side. Diaz. Just one attempt on the Fulham goal from Manchester City. Again, showing signs of slowing down in the second half. Again, slightly understandable. They were already 3-0 up, but goal difference could be a part to play at the end of this season. As the Reinders flick towards Marmouche, is intercepted by Anderson, who takes too long to kick the ball away. But Marmouche was too aggressive on the challenge. And that'll be a free kick for Fulham. Leno has not been as busy in this second half. Clears it just about as Semenyo was closing down. Goes beyond the halfway line. It's headed up into the air by Muniz. Controlled and can't be played by Sessegnon. Stopped by Diaz, but straight to King. To the left flank to Kevin. Running at Kusanov. Through for King. I can't quite replay it into Kevin, who has a few swipes at the ankles of Ryan Cherky. And that'll be a free kick in the 18-yard box for Manchester City. Just a bit of frustration there from the Brazilian winger. Got some big games coming up for Manchester City. They've scored 4 or more goals in 5 separate games this season. Could make that 6 if they score another here tonight. Just lost 2 in their last 20 in all competitions, and those 2 defeats were those games against Manchester United and Bodo Glimt as Nori gives it away cheaply. It's to Oscar Bob. To King. Driving inside into a more central position. Goes back into Iwobi. Starting to become a little bit lackadaisical. Manchester City in possession. Iwobi. Back to Anderson, who goes across to Bassey at left centre half. Bassey with a bit of time on the ball. Finding Berger. Anderson to this near side to Tete. Works the ball to Bob. Try to get away from Aït-Nouri. Good tackle from the Algerian, not allowing him to turn forward. And that's going to be a throw-in for Fulham. It looks like Aït-Nouri here struggling with cramp. For Aït-Nouri. This is his third start in a row, and he started 6 of the last 7 as well in all competitions. So he has been worked hard. He might earn himself a bit of a break at the weekend, as they've got Salford in the FA Cup. And for Fulham, they've got Stoke away in the FA Cup on the Sunday. I'm commentating on an FA Cup game this weekend. And I'll let you know what that is shortly. Sessegnon crosses. Volleyed clearance in the box from Mark Gay. Throwing on the far side for Fulham. As we're commentating tomorrow for Brentford, Arsenal. And the game on Sunday that we're commentating on in the FA Cup is Oxford, Sunderland. So, looking to see if maybe there could be an upset there as high-flying Sunderland take on struggling Oxford. Anderson on the halfway line. Bassi bringing the ball forward, overrunning it, and it's taken off him from Cherki, who's only got Marmoush ahead of him. Cherki tries the back heel, and he back heels it off Bassi and wins his team a throw-in. Well won there by Ryan Cherki, who's got 3 league goals this season, scored on his debut against Wolves, on his Premier League debut against Wolves in the first game off the bench. He's also collected 7 assists this season, the Frenchman, who won Olympic silver in 2024. Gay wins it on halfway, forward to Cherki. Reinders bringing it out to the left. He's got Marmoush to his left, and he'll play it to the Egyptian. Not really made an impact since coming off the bench at half-time, Omar Marmoush. Cherki. Aït-Nouri back into Gonzalez. Diaz in the centre circle, who's playing like he's never been away. Did miss 8 games with a hamstring problem before returning off the bench against Liverpool on Sunday. Kusanov at right back. Being trapped by Sessegnon. O'Reilly, though, will take over. Scorer of the Manchester City second. O'Reilly shielding it away from Sessegnon and then being tackled by King. Last touch off O'Reilly. And that's going to be a throw-in for Fulham. They want to take the throw-in quickly. And they will. Just over 10 minutes to go here at the Etihad Stadium. Still Manchester City 3, Fulham 0. No goals yet in this second half. Coming into this, it was 5 wins in 10 in all competitions for Fulham since December the 22nd. Tete trying to go for a ball forward into the middle. Well cut out there by Nico Gonzalez, who came through 10 years at Barcelona's academy, learning the Pep way. Donnarumma trying to play it to Mark Gay. It was intercepted by Bob, but straight out of play for a goal kick. Heart in the mouth stuff there for Gianluigi Donnarumma. As we're going to get another Fulham change with 10 to play. Sander Berger will come off there, number 16. And he'll be replaced by number 6, Harrison Reed, making just his 5th appearance in the Premier League this season. 1 goal of the month in the Premier League for January, and there's no surprise there. Scored an absolute worldie off the bench against Liverpool in that 2-2 draw. Came off the bench in the 92nd minute and then scored the equaliser, in the 97th minute. Donnarumma goes more direct towards Marmoush. Cut out by Anderson. Losing my voice here. Switch from Fulham to Kevin. Try to work it to Sessegnon. It's not quite on the same wavelength. Dealt with by Kusanov. Cleared. Those fouls. Bassi on the halfway line. As Fulham are 6th in the form table for the last 10 games. Picking up 17 points from the 30 available. Scoring 15 and conceding 13 in that run. but just weren't at the races at all in the first half. Clawed themselves back into it in the second half, but always going to be too big of a mountain to climb, being 3 goals down against this Manchester City team at home in the Premier League. Nori goes down from a challenge from Oscar Bob. Still 0-0 in those other 2 games that are currently going ahead. Sunderland and Liverpool are also 0-0, but that's half time. Villa Brighton 0-0. And they need a good result, Brighton, because I know Hertzler is under a bit of pressure from the Brighton fans. And Deitch will be under huge pressure if they don't win against Wolves. I can see him getting the sack if he don't win that game. We know what Marinakis is like. Is in the Scottish Premiership, Celtic 1, Livingston 1. Not a good result for Martin O'Neill's team, who need to keep pace with the pack. And Rangers still 1-0 up against Motherwell. Raskin with the first half goal. Reinders to Marmoush on the halfway line, trying to release it. Bob got the touch to the ball as the referee points to the ball. And then Kevin gets tripped by Gonzalez. And that'll be a yellow card. Very cynical there from Nico Gonzalez. Manchester City wanted a free kick on Marmoush, but the referee claimed that the ball was won. Not gonna lie, it did look like a free kick to me, that original one. Bob on Marmoush, but referee didn't give it. That certainly is a free kick and a foul though on Kevin. There's no doubt in that. Thank you to everyone who's here. If you could like and subscribe, that'd be fantastic. Another commentary coming live tomorrow night as Arsenal travel to Brentford for a huge game in the title race. Guardiola yellow carded as well, I think, for his reaction to the fact that his team didn't get the free kick originally and then conceded one and got a yellow card for it. Harrison Reed crossing the ball into the box from the free kick. Almost touched on by Muniz, but it'll go behind for a goal kick, seen and shepherded behind by Kusanov. Very miserable looking Marco Silva. His first ever away defeat was in a league game to Blackpool. Shows how far he's come since taking over. Now getting beaten by Manchester City at the Etihad Stadium. 2 wins away from 100 as Fulham head coach Marco Silva. And there they are, showing on the bench is a returning John Stones, who's been out for the last 18 games with a thigh problem. His last appearance, funnily enough, was against Fulham away from home in that 5-4 win. His last start, though, was in the defeat they got away from home against Villa at the end of October. His contract expires at the end of this season, John Stones. Very interesting to know what they do with his deal. Sessegnon squares it towards King, who gets the shot wide of the goal. He's asking for a corner. He thinks there was a touch off Gay, who's very much solidified himself in this Manchester City starting 11 when he's eligible to play. Of course, can't play in the League Cup final or in the last Champions League games, but he's obviously will be registered for the knockout stages. Goal kick taken by Gay to the left back, Nori. Thumps it forward, deflects off Reed, kindly for City as it drops to Cherky. It's now Reinders, who will drive forward, plays it into Semenyo. May have been offside, flag stays down for now. Semenyo's pass is intercepted as he tried to play out Marmoush in behind. Semenyo with a foul on King, but the referee will play advantage. King clattered into there by Diaz. Again, another advantage played on Josh King, who's done very well since coming on. Here's Kevin on the left wing, try to go around Kusanov, and he can keep the ball away from him and cross it in towards Muniz. Vital block from Gay, met by some fist-bumping celebration from Donnarumma just behind him. As Iwobi kicks it off Cherky, deflects to Kusanov. 4 minutes to go. Gonzalez expertly turns away from Reed. Cherky. Diaz. Across to Gay. 4 minutes left of the 90. Still Manchester City 3, Fulham 0. It's now with Gianluigi Donnarumma as it looks like there is a late goal at Villa Park. It looks like Aston Villa have scored to make it 1-0. And they will close the gap to Manchester City to 3 points themselves. That will put Villa on 50 points. As Manchester City are currently now sat on 53 with Arsenal on 56. It's been a very poor second half from Manchester City in terms of trying to get another goal. I know they don't need to get another goal in terms of this game. But in terms of the title race and goal difference, it might have been helpful to get a couple more. Iwobi winning the sprint race there on Cherky and playing it back to Leno. Josh King off the bench, the 19-year-old, looking lively, turned 19 at the start of the year. Kevin trying to play it through towards Muniz. Gay takes it away from Donnarumma and has to just kick it out for a throw-in. Because if Muniz nicked that off Gay, Donnarumma was slightly away from goal and he could have probably put that in the back of the net. Sessegnon forward from fullback. Bassi to Anderson in the centre circle. Going to the right to Tete. Not many options with him. Works it to the right winger of Oscar Bob on his return to the Etihad Stadium. Only left a couple of weeks ago. And he's already back. Bassi out towards Kevin. Sliding challenge from Kushnov. It's timed well. It's a throw-in for Fulham on the halfway line. 17 points difference between these two teams last season in the league table. And after tonight, the gap will be 19. With Fulham staying on 34 points and staying in 12th position. Reed, forward and out wide right to Bob, who's in the area. One-on-one with Gay, who gets the cross, who gets across and tackles Bob and takes it away from him. Aït-Nouri touches it great. One back by Bob, who's then tackled by Aït-Nouri. The defensive work doesn't stop for Manchester City. They want the clean sheet today. Ooh, Cherky gives it away in a bad position. And from afar, shots taken, I think, there by Kevin. And that's absolutely nowhere near. Scored a worldie at Old Trafford not too long ago. Couldn't quite replicate that. The former Brazilian under-20 international. As Marta Gay is given player of the match. Looking very tidy in Manchester City blue. Played every minute for them in the last 4 Premier League games now. Did score a winner in the 87th minute for Palace against Fulham a couple of months ago in the Premier League. And if City do win the title this season, it'll be 7 league titles in 10 seasons under Pep Guardiola. As Aston Villa have gone 1-0 up, and it was Tyrone Mings with the goal. As it's still Forest 0, Wolves 0. There in the second minute of added on time. Sunderland, Liverpool kick back off. That's still 0-0. And Burnley still holding Palace 3-2. That's in the 80th minute as well. As it's Leno with the ball at his feet going to his left to Bassi. Turns away from Semenyo. And then fouled by Semenyo as he tried to recover and get back at the Nigerian. Still 1-1 between Celtic and Livingston. We've got 3 minutes added on here. Indicated by the 4th official, Tom Neild. Funnily enough, 3 of Fulham's 4 Premier League wins against City have come at the Etihad, all in April. April 2006, 2008 and 2009. And that's the last time they won against City, full stop. In April 2009, 3-1 win here. There's Cherky in the centre circle. He's got options forward as they want to try and get a 4th. Towards Marmoush it goes. Didn't quite direct it towards him. And it just went away from the Egyptian. Defended well by Fulham. We're going to try for a consolation if they can. The City look for their 4th clean sheet in their last 6 home games in the league. As Sessegnon puts enough pressure. Kushnov puts enough pressure on Sessegnon to win his team a goal kick. Good defending from the Uzbekistan international. first ever player from Uzbekistan to play in the Premier League. Left his home country in March 2022 to try and make it in the European game, which he's certainly done since joining Manchester City. Strong, quick. And in his press conference in the week, Pep Guardiola has let us know that his English is getting better, his understanding is getting better, but in Pep Guardiola's words, he's not quite speaking like William Shakespeare, but he's certainly getting the grips of the English language eventually, after a year now at the club for Kusanov. He's got some chasing to do here at right back. He's got Kevin on his back, and he tried to shield it for a throw-in, and he does it brilliantly. Got every attribute to make a brilliant defender, Abdulkadir Kusanov, who's yet to score this season, scored on his debut against Leyton Orient in the FA Cup. It deflected off him after a Rico Lewis shot to get them back in that game, because that was a bit of a squeaky bum tie for them, the one at Leyton Orient last season, on their way to the FA Cup final, which they lost to Crystal Palace by a goal to 0. Abera Eze with the goal for Palace, as we've got 40 seconds left of this game. Manchester City 3, Fulham 0, same scoreline that we had at half-time. It's Kevin on the left wing. He's got King inside on the edge of the box. Brilliant turn. Good shot as well. And palmed over by Donnarumma. A save you'd expect him to make, but still had to make sure it didn't hit the back of the net. It's been limited game time recently for Josh King, the youngster. Didn't play any minutes in the last 2. And he's not started since Spurs away on the 29th of November. But he certainly showcased to Marco Silva tonight why he should be starting. He's looked really positive once he'd come on for the last half an hour. In swinging corner from Reed. It's a header won by Diaz all as far as Bob, who hits the first shot. Second one's blocked by his own teammate and can't be forced towards goal. And as it's cleared away from goal, the referee blows the full-time whistle here at the Etihad Stadium. And it finishes Manchester City 3, Fulham 0. And that is Manchester City's 20th win in a row against Fulham. A run which has been going since February 2012 in a 3-0 home win. And in February 2026, they've just beaten Fulham in a 3-0 home win. In the last 20 games now against Fulham, City have an aggregate scoreline against them of 62-13. And the first half got the job done for Pep Guardiola's side. Once again, it was a slower second half, but Fulham weren't able to raise their levels enough to even have Manchester City breaking a sweat. The 3 goals came within 15 minutes of the first half. The first from Antoine Semenyo in the 24th minute. He's now got 5 and 8 since joining in January from Bournemouth. O'Reilly scored 6 minutes later on the half an hour mark. He'd had 2 shots go well over the bar before this goal, but that one was taken really nicely, tight angle, but lifted it over the goalkeeper, doubled Manchester City's lead. And it was 3 just before half-time. Erling Haaland finally scoring from open play since December in the Premier League. It's back-to-back games for Erling Haaland with goals. Of course, very importantly, scoring from the penalty spot against Liverpool, but this time it's from open play, just outside the area, sweeping a shot into the bottom right corner. And into the second half, Manchester City barely posed a threat on Bernd Leno in the Fulham goal, but Fulham couldn't really cause much danger for Donnarumma in Manchester City's net. Had to make a late save there on Josh King, but other than that, it was a pretty routine 3-0 victory for Manchester City, which takes them 3 points behind league leaders Arsenal, who do have a game in hand, and that is tomorrow night away at Brentford, which will be commentated on live here for an 8 o'clock kickoff. Make sure you are here for that game. It's going to be absolutely massive. Before I go, we'll quickly run through the other scorelines at the moment. Forest draw 0-0 with Wolves. Could that be the end of Sean Dyche at Nottingham Forest and as a Premier League manager? Because it has not gone well for him at all since taking over from Ange Postecoglou. Looks like Villa are going to win 1-0 against Brighton. A Jack Hinshelwood own goal is the difference between two as the poor form for Brighton continues. Palace, Burnley still 3-2 to Burnley in the 86th minute. That'll be a huge 3 points for Scott Parker's side, who I know haven't won, I think, in 16 or 17 league games. And Liverpool are still being held 0-0 in the start of the second half to Sunderland at the Stadium of Light. But here at the Etihad Stadium, It's a comfortable 3-0 victory for Pep Guardiola's side, who continue their march and their chase on Arsenal. They've really put the pressure on them. They're 3 points behind them. They've scored 3 goals tonight. Semenyo, O'Reilly, Haaland. Job done for Pep, and he'll be watching tomorrow very closely to see if Arsenal can slip up. But from the Etihad Stadium here, it finishes Manchester City 3, Fulham 0.